You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
ECU, Pirate Nation, Purple and Gold family, stand to your feet, put your crossbones up, and lean side to side, yeah, and lean side to side, yeah, and lean side to side, come on, yeah, welcome to the island, man, it's crazy in here, a whole sea of purple and gold waving it.
Welcome into the Pirate Playback, brought to you by L&K Custom Homes. A tough loss in Houston as Rice taking down East Carolina. It's hard for me to say. As someone who loves my Pirates, 24-17. Pirates now 1-4. Also very hard to say, but you know, the great thing about our show, it's called the Sports Objective, so that's what we're trying to do. And it's very hard when you love the purple and gold, right, Kyle?
Yeah, no, it's you got to be objective, and I have no problem being objective. No, it's last night. It was a game we should have won, and poor red zone execution, not enough ability to make explosive plays, offensive line problems. There's just problems just could go on and on and on the offensive side of the ball.
No doubt, and let's bring in Bubba Rosenbaum. Bubba, you. Man, you are the best. You and JR are two people, Johnny Robertson, that are great at numbers, and some of them are just really, really sting when and hurt. But it is, you know, you are what you are. We're 1-4. Thank God for the bye week. I usually don't like the bye week, but I think it comes at the perfect time. Bubba Rosenbaum, what say you?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Definitely have several things we need to address. I mean, also, you know, as tough as this is to say, despite the 24-17 loss, and, you know, folks don't want to hear this, but we did do a lot of pretty good things offensively, despite 5 or 6 drops, and then despite, you know, some inconsistencies, being able to protect and open up holes for Rajay. So, in many regards, this is probably the best we have been offensively, and we moved the ball with more consistency than we have all year. And no, we weren't going against the 85 Bears, but at the same time, you know, we moved the ball and just didn't cash in the red zone, and that was the frustrating part, because you know, Alex Flynn, and sometimes when we had put ourselves behind the chains, whether it was with a you know, a false start or, you know, negative yardage play, we were able to overcome some of those things with the passing game where we had not done so in the past. And then you go right down the field to end the half. You make about a 39 yard field goal, and then you go right down the field to start the second half with 3 big plays in the passing game. Excellent throw and catch with Alex Flynn and Josiah Hatfield, and then you have first and goal at the 3 and get stuffed, and didn't feel great about it from that point on. Even when we tied it up 17-17, I was like, well, okay, maybe we're going to find a way to pull this out. And then unfortunately,
we played horrible football in the fourth quarter.
Probably the worst defensive possession of the game after that. 4 plays, 75 yards, the big play in the screen game.
And then Matt, we need to welcome Matt in. Matt, welcome you into the show.
What's up, guys? You know, a lot of the things I'm going to focus on tonight are the overall state of the program, and you know, I think what I've been thinking about a lot over the last 24 hours since that game is the fact that this is year 5. This is year 5 for Mike Houston. This is no longer the Scotty Montgomery rebuild. These are Mike Houston's players. And what we're seeing right now, fellas, this is completely unacceptable. ECU fans deserve more than this. I'm just very disappointed right now in the direction of the program. And I'm not going to hold back tonight. I'll be very honest. So that's my opener, and certainly have a lot to say about last night.
Bubba, you were talking about the drives that we stalled on, and then the after we scored the tie, the defensive. You know, we had our worst defense, you know, following the scoring drive, that we weren't playing complimentary football. But one thing that really irritates the piss out of me, and nobody's really talked about it, and they didn't talk about it last night, was, they had an opportunity, they beating Rice, to put the game away, and they missed a field goal, and then get a 15-yard penalty, and we start to drive at the damn 40 and get about 10 yards. I mean, they couldn't have gifted us a better opportunity to score.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we still almost scored off of a goofy play that got reviewed. By the way, not for nothing, if Rice can't do better camera work than that, they should not be allowed to produce any more football games on ESPN Plus. That was the most pathetic. With concentrating on the football game, and let me say that good announcers. The sideline girl, by the way, if anybody can get her number, she is definitely my type.
You mean Smacker Miles?
Yeah, I'd love to smack her, boy. Anyway, yeah. But the camera work last night was atrocious. I don't know if anybody else agrees with that. You have to if you watch the game.
I tell you what, all the way around, it was really horrible. And you guys were talking about the state of the program. We're 1-4 right now. What we got to do is we got to have a sense of urgency. We don't have any urgency right now. I think that what I mean by urgency is the coaching staff right now is very stubborn. And I think, look, I'm a huge Mike Houston fan, as everybody knows, but I've got to, like our show says, the sport's subjective. I have to be objective. And let me just say, Coach Houston has to stop being stubborn about a conservative offense with run and rely on the defense. The defense.
We weren't conservative last night.
Exactly. We threw the ball 65% of the time on first down, and many times with a lot of success. Prior to still what? I mean, that's. And
I know. I'm just saying we still have the.
I'll go over some numbers here in a little while, but we threw the ball 65% of the time on first down, and when we did run it, we had some, especially with Javius Bond and Camaro.
Bond didn't get enough carries last night.
Nope.
Yeah, you had Javius Bond 7 carries for 72 yards.
That's retarded. Would you just excuse me for anybody who's offended by that word?
15 for 46.
7 carries for 72 yards means he didn't get enough effing carries.
Exactly. But that goes back to coaching. It goes back to in-game management. This year, I don't know what's going on with that. I will say, and I will. The in-game management for this coaching staff has been horrendous. You look at the Marshall game. We said all along, guys, when we're talking about, I want to say this. We'll get back to the game real quick. A quick sidebar. We said, Kyle, all of us agreed you had to win the Marshall game or the App game. The Marshall game we let slip away. We had that game in hand. The App game is the App game. It is what it is. And we also said to win Gardner-Webb, we did that. We also said the Rice game, nobody said Rice was going to be a cupcake. None of us said that. But it was a game that we said it was a 50-50 game that we could win. And in game,
the trouble with it, I wasn't impressed with Rice.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that in-game management has got to improve. And if you're a leader of the program, just like any of us, guess what? You have to take responsibility and saying, I'm not doing enough to coach this team. It's okay. We would respect you more if you'll say that. Let's get these teams. Right now, having the bye week, thank God we have the bye week. The first 5 games have been so hard to digest, and we've got to do a better job. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that. If the coaching staff have a problem with me and everybody on here saying that, think about your customers. Those are your fans. How do we get fans back? Win more ball games. How do you win more games? You have to score more points. We can defensively. I have no issues. Offensively, we do have talent. You got to coach them up.
The defense has got to play better in the fourth quarter. They did get a couple stops last night after giving up the scoring drive. I'll give them credit for that. Overall, I think the defense gets worn out, but sometimes, Matt, you just got to do what you got to do. You know about it. You played linebacker at this level. I mean, you can't. Sometimes you just got to give the offense more possessions if they're struggling. But we passed the ball a lot last night, like Bubba pointed out. Rice is one of the worst pass defenses in America. So, we had the right approach. Now, what you just said, Bubba, that stat about Bonds, 10 carries for 7 carries for 72 yards, that means he averaged over 10 yards a carry.
Yep.
And why in the world did he only get 7 carries? That is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
Well, it just goes back to the inconsistency that we see every week, the lack of a clear identity offensively with this team. And we've been talking about this for a long time. Last year, we were able to cover up a lot of these weaknesses with this offensive system because of the fact we probably had the most talent on last year's offense as we've had in a long time at East Carolina.
Looking back on it, Matt, we should have 8 games was really disappointing. Looking back on the talent we had.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so we were able to I guess you would say disguise a lot of our shortcomings offensively last year. But right now there's no disguising this. There's no you can't put lipstick on a pig. I mean, at the end of the day, fellas, this offense, it's unoriginal, it lacks identity, it lacks playmakers. I want to say we were credited for 7 drops last night. 7 drops.
Wow.
Inexcusable.
I mean, it's at the point now where you're looking at all our receivers and you're saying, what you have to catch the ball. I mean, this is Division I football. And
it's play really last night, Matt, to your point, where Jalen Johnson, it was obvious he didn't catch the ball because he was worried about getting hit.
I'll tell you, he's had his season has been very frustrating. He's had a lot of drops this year. He was kind of supposed to be he was supposed to be our lead wide receiver this year, our go-to guy. And it's really been the type of year for him where if you don't put it right in his hands, he's not going to catch it, which is really frustrating to see because with this lack of experience on the O-line and a quarterback who's not incredibly accurate, you need receivers to make plays, and we're not making them.
No, the only guy that's making catches just on a consistent basis really is so well, and
yeah,
he needs to develop his body more, and he needs to develop a little bit more toughness. But at least if you get the ball, he's got a good vertical. We saw that on the 2-point conversion. And he will catch the ball. He's got good hands. He's a good possession receiver, but he's not a play. He's not a play breaker, a playmaker. He's not a big play guy. Is what the hell I'm trying to say. But he's a very good possession receiver.
Well, how about the catch there? I guess it was the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he went vertical on that. That was a great catch.
Well, yeah, it was really a jump ball, kind of a back shoulder and jump ball situation there, and did a great job. 7 catches for 88 yards. And
yeah, he's got a good vertical. That's something that I would utilize more in the red zone going forward, Bubba.
He does, and there was one time there where he or a couple times actually where he caught shallow crossers, and I had someone message me and just talking about him, needing to make somebody miss in the open field, and one time it was.
He cut it to the outside once when he should have cut it inside.
He should have cut it up. I mean, it was a situation where you had the corner on the opposite side sitting there, where he had been playing in zone coverage, and he just continued on instead of cutting it up. And
he might have scored on that damn play.
Yeah, and got a pretty good lick put on him there on the right sideline.
Yeah, he's just got that's something you can show him.
Redshirt freshman.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something you can show him on film today that he'll know. Hey, look, cut that up next time.
Well, let me ask you guys something that's been on my mind, and I want to ask all you guys. Let's just go around a little bit. Does anybody on this panel think that Rice was the more talented team last night?
No, we have a lot of. That's my point. We have a lot of talent, and it's got to be. We do. We have talent. We're letting the.
I'm just talking about last night. Last night on the field, when you guys watched those two teams, if you got to choose one roster,
I take they can pass block better than we can. They can't run block for crap. I would take their quarterback. If you put their quarterback, okay, I'll tell you like this. I think we are lacking talent at receiver, but I think we have more talent at receiver than Rice. I think if you'd have put their quarterback with our receivers, we win that game probably 42-21.
There's no question more experience at quarterback, and the inexperience overall is the. I mean, what do you think, Bubba?
Oh, go ahead, Bubba. Yep. I
think that now is JT Daniels, does he have better tools than Alex Flynn as far as arm strength and so forth? Absolutely. But I don't think Alex Flynn was the problem. I mean, Alex Flynn, I think he performed pretty well. Yes, he threw the pick on the screen pass where we were throwing a screen pass into the boundary to the running back, to Javius Bond, I believe it was, and the Mike linebacker made a nice play on the ball. It's one of those I can see how it happened, from a quarterback's perspective. But
No,
believe it. Sorry, go ahead.
Flynn's fine from a game management standpoint.
Right.
If you took just what I was telling Matt last night, if you took last year's offensive line and receivers and had Flynn throwing to them this year with the schedule, we'd probably be a 6-win football team, maybe 7-win.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, would a crappy offensive line or a young offensive line, and not a tremendous amount of talent at receiver. We got some talented receivers, some young receivers. You really, in that situation, you need a really experienced quarterback, and that's where I think a guy with the arm of Daniels could make more plays. Flynn's a game manager, and Flynn would be just fine if he had a good offensive line and more talented receiver. He'd be just fine.
Well, I'd say
go ahead.
With JT Daniels, I mean, I'm not talking about last night because I know he wasn't 100%. I'm saying even if he is 100%, yes, his experience would be of benefit, but he's not particularly mobile even when he's 100%. I'd say Alex Flynn is probably even a little bit more mobile than Daniels.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you got to create him a pocket.
Yeah, because even though Flynn.
Although Flynn does not throw
Mason
good on
Garcia.
the run,
He's a good runner, and I heard it described very well last night by the color analyst Taylor McHarg, who had played quarterback for Rice back 2010 to 2013. Unfortunately, I think he was the quarterback on that team that put 62 on us back in 2010. But Alex Flynn, 21 out of 44, 246 yards. But as Matt already mentioned, 7 drops by Pirate receivers. Sure, you're going to have some drops, but let's say we catch 5 or 6 of those and you're 26 or 27 out of 44. And that was probably, 315 yards. Suddenly that's a heck of a night.
Yeah. But also, again, I go back, Rice's defense is drizzling chips. So,
exactly. And I expected, I knew going into that game, a very young quarterback for South Florida, who's from Raleigh, by the way, Byron Brown.
We didn't offer him.
Yeah. From everything I've heard, we did not offer him even as an athlete, not as a quarterback. So I believe that is correct. He had a heck of a game yesterday against Navy, but against Rice last week, 22 out of 29 for 435 yards and 3 or 4 touchdowns without a pick. That's why I knew that the opportunity was going to be there last night in the passing game, and we made some plays, but unfortunately had some drops and then didn't have time at other times to make plays because of a lack of protection. And there was a time or two where I saw Alex did have time and missed a shallow crosser or missed a check down to a running back.
Also, not enough yards after catch. That's another thing. When those, it seems like we'll catch a shallow crosser like you're talking about or whatever, and we'll pick up just enough yards for the first down or whatever. We don't break up tackle and bust one for a touchdown. There's no big play, very little big play, very little ability to create big plays from this offense. Very, very little. I mean, I think maybe last night we had 3 plays of over 30 yards off the top of my head, and that was the most we've had all year. Very, very, very little ability to create big plays.
Yes, they're about halfway through the second quarter. Very quickly, Matt, since Kyle referenced that lack of big playability with this offense and having to put those 14, 15, 16 play drives together. And last night we had a 14 play drive that resulted in a field goal, 14 for 56, which was the first possession of the game. And then the drive that tied the game at 17 plays was 80 yards or right at 80 yards. So execute with more consistency and put those types of drives together like we had seen against App State. But then, wanted to chime in very quickly. Have some folks asking what's the number to
Yep.
call in. Give us a
Top
call,
of the screen.
252-290-0375, 252-290-0375, and share with us your thoughts on Pirate football.
We have a great call screener, so just call in, and I'm sure they'll take good care of you.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and let me just finish that point, guys, I was trying to make before. But the fact that here we are again in year 5, and we're actually debating, we're having a serious debate about, are we a more talented football team than Rice? That's scary.
Yep.
That is an indictment on the recruiting in this program. We should be further along in this process. Now, I know we lost a lot of talent last year, but we're not the first program in the country to lose talent. Everybody does. We should not be in this position in year 5, and that's just that's pretty scary to me, guys. And it really makes me wonder if the plan here was to have.
Don't steal my thing, Matt.
Well, Kyle, actually, and this, I'm gonna let you give your thoughts on that if you want to.
You can go ahead. You can go ahead. I've said it enough. You go ahead.
Well, I really don't think it's debatable. I think we were the more talented team. There was no hesitation.
That's not what Matt was going to.
No.
Okay. Well, I was just. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, Bubba. So this is something Kyle and I have discussed many times, and Kyle's been pretty vocal about this, and I think it has merit, and that's the fact that it seems like when you look at this program, we were gearing up for a big year 4, which was last year. We were supposed to have a better year than we did. It wasn't a bad year. We won 8 games. We won a bowl game, but we very easily could have won 10 games last year, and
11
or that. And it really makes you wonder when you look at it, were we just gearing up for that one big year, or were we actually building a foundation that can last for the long haul? And right now the answer is no. It looks like we're gearing up for one big year, because this looks like a rebuild. This looks like
based on his track record and based on the fact, look, I'm gonna play devil's advocate and kind of do a little common sense right in front of you. Based on his track record of how long he's been in places, based on what we had last year, and based on his contract that Gilbert gave him. When Gilbert gave him that extension, he made that base $1.4 million. Now, you don't make that base $1.4 million with the thought that we're going to have to buy this guy out. You do that with the thought that somebody is going to hire him away. They're going to have to pay us a lot of money to get him. That is the highest base contract we've ever given anybody. And at the time it was signed, it was the second highest base contract of any coach in the UNC system. That covers a lot of ground. So
yeah, also,
the reason you do that is because you think somebody's going to have to buy him out. Mike Houston, I firmly believe, and can't prove it, but he thought last year and we were going to win 10, 11 games, and he was going to be coaching in the ACC or SEC this year. And now he finds himself here in year 5, still in Greenville, and I don't think he properly prepared the roster, particularly on the offensive side of the ball for this year.
But I've got a point to make on that. That may be true. However, if you look at the track record, let's just say this. If you look at the track record of Houston all the way to his high school coaching days, he's left things better than he's found it, and those programs are still successful. And so when you want to say he's just going to do a Bobby Petrino, I can see where you're going, but at the same time, I'm going to be fair to Houston, even though I'm not happy with things right now. But at the same time, I think –
I don't know what Lenore Ryan in the Citadel was like after he left them. JMU is JMU. I mean, JMU hit the FCS level, and they're doing it at the FBS level. But at the FCS level, they were Alabama. I mean, to be quite honest with you. I mean, Everett Withers won there. Everett Withers, couldn't coach his way out of a wet paper bag. I gave him one once. He was stuck in it for days. So, I mean, to be quite honest with you, I don't know. Bubba, you would be the better person to answer this. How did the Citadel do after Houston left?
That's a good question. I'm trying to recall. I don't think I think there was some drop off because the coach that their former head coach is now working with us. So there was clearly some drop off.
Okay.
So I'm drawing a blank on his name, but yes, he had been on Coach Houston's staff I want to say not only at the Citadel, but perhaps at LR as well. And he's now in a off the field role for us. He was hired earlier this year.
Yeah, you just look.
And let me just say we're talking about FCS football, though. You know what I mean, guys? Like, we're talking about the Citadel. We're talking about what Lenore Ryan.
D2. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean,
Brent Thompson.
Yeah. But nonetheless, I get what Dave's saying. I just look at what we have on offense. And another thing that just really is concerning to me, and Matt, I think you brought this up, or it may have been Bubba. And this is on the coaching staff, not Mason Garcia. Mason Garcia in the system for the last 4 years, and you can't evaluate his talent any better than that you thought he was the man. We didn't know we didn't need to go get a starter from the transfer portal in December. We were good. And in the spring, we tried to get somebody out the portal, but we were telling guys you're going to be the backup. So how do you misevaluate somebody that bad? He's not even the starter now. Flynn is. And we, had we hit the portal for a quarterback back in December, there's no telling who we could have got. JT Daniels ended up at Rice. There's no telling who.
Somebody.
Go ahead, Bubba.
One of those portal quarterbacks. And granted, he's from Arizona, but Mikey Keene, who is now with Fresno State, and this type of season they're having, they're ranked in the top 25. They're 5-0 after a 27-9 win over Nevada. Mikey Keene last night, 26 out of 34 for 269. He did have 2 touchdowns and 2 picks, but for the season now, he's completing right at 70%, 69% of his passes. I think, or perhaps that was going into last night, but point being that he's been very, very good for Fresno State. Like I said, he is a native of Arizona, so perhaps he would have chosen them. But it didn't have to be Mikey Keene. There were other options out there.
A lot of them.
Well, and Kyle, let me take it a step further really quick. And Dave, I'll just make this point really quick. Okay. All we've heard about Mason Garcia for the last 3 years is about the arm strength. That's what we've heard. We've heard about elite arm strength. Now, let me ask you guys something. If you have a quarterback with elite arm strength, Kyle, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Throw downfield.
You're going to take deep shots.
Yeah.
Do you know? Let me ask you guys a question.
Roll him out. Roll him out. If the line won't hold up, roll him out and throw deep.
Has Mason thrown a pass over 20 yards this year?
No.
Honestly,
not many. You can count them on one hand with probably 2 or 3 fingers.
I don't think he has.
So again, but this, I'm highlighting. What I'm trying to do is highlight your point that we heard about the the elite arm talent. We heard that he was being groomed, and yet if you have a quarterback with elite arm talent, don't you want to try to take advantage and implement a system where you throw the ball downfield? So I again, I'm not trying to bang on Mason Garcia. He's a really good kid. That's not my point here. But my point is the development. There's something wrong.
Do you guys
We've got a caller if you.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, let's go to Shell and Charlotte. What's up, man?
What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on, Shell?
Still a long night, bro.
What's up, Kyle?
Nah, he must, man.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, what's going on, Shell? How you doing?
Good, buddy. Your head coach was Logan, correct?
Correct.
He didn't take any BS from anybody. He didn't care who the AD was, the president. If something was wrong, he called it out, right?
He was definitely the type of personality where he had no problem calling out really anything, whether it was football related or non-football related. So that's correct. Yep.
And the thing I see with Houston, and I like Houston, but it's always like there's an excuse. The kids played hard. They did this. They did that. And it gets to a point where you can see them, and I just don't really think they're following him anymore, man. And I was talking to Dave earlier. When you got Flynn on the 1 yard line and all of a sudden you sub him out for Garcia and he hasn't touched the ball all game, then he mishandles the snap, that's nuts. Logan would have never done that, ever.
But we got to the 1 yard. Again, I pointed this out with Dave earlier. It doesn't bother me because we got to the 1 yard line earlier and Flynn couldn't get it in. So that really doesn't bother me. I'm not sure, Dave, y'all were talking about that earlier. That really didn't bother me very much.
It bothered me.
And you think back to the 2014 Birmingham Bowl, a Carden Benkert situation.
Yeah, exactly. You put Benkert in to get it in. It doesn't bother me at all. You sub out other players. I mean, to me, using Mason in a goal line package makes some sense because of his running abilities. It didn't work there. We ended up scoring on that drive. We put Flynn back in.
We did it last week against Gardner Webb successfully.
Exactly. So it really didn't bother me.
We don't have a quarterback, man. That's the bottom line. We do not have a quarterback.
We don't have a quarterback. We don't have an offensive line.
We don't have either. I mean, my point is, look at freaking Duke. Duke was a play away from beating freaking Notre Dame, and Duke is one of the highest academic institutions in the United States of America.
Yep. And
they almost beat Notre Dame by one play, and the person that beat them is going to be a first-round NFL draft pick at quarterback. How does Duke build that in 2 years with Elko? How does that happen? Elko's
a hell of a coach. I do think that
think about who plays for him.
What's his name?
Those kids have to have academics through the roof.
Cutcliffe
is a really good coach.
Left them with a lot of talent, and also Duke lowered their academic standards for football towards the end of the Cutcliffe tenure. That was kind of one of his caveats to stay there when he had an opportunity to go to Tennessee several years back. So the academic standards were lowered a little bit for the football team for Duke. I don't know how many people realize that, but no, that does not take away anything.
They're still higher than ECU.
That is, well, they also have they also are in a Power 5 conference. They're also in a Power 5 conference. We ain't out recruiting Duke anymore. It still doesn't take away from your point of that Mike Elko is doing a hell of a job in 2 years, and we're in year 5.
Tremendous coach.
Yeah, we're into year 5 under Houston and
Michigan State. Look out for Elko going to Michigan.
Another thing that I would point out, me and Matt and Bubba have had this conversation, is you talk about Duke. They're in a Power 5 conference, so they're out recruiting us now because of the Power 5 tag. And being in the American for East Carolina is kind of a catch-22. Yeah, you're getting more money than you would be in the Sun Belt, but the American doesn't allow non-qualifiers. Look, when we were in Conference USA, those defensive lines that we had under Skip Holtz in one conference championship were built with non-qualifiers. That's what Marshall and App's doing a lot, is taking non-qualifiers. And we do not have the ability to do that in the American, yet we don't have Power 5 status. So we're kind of caught in the middle.
Yep, I think that's a really good point. And, I think that we should be actively pushing Mike Oresco to work on these changes if possible, because the ability to recruit non-qualifiers would really open things up. But
I think that's a very good point. We need to quit pretending, Matt. We need to quit pretending we're a Power 5 conference when we're not. The only advantage you have of being a group of 5 and being in a group of 5 conference is the ability to take non-qualifiers, and we're not taking advantage of it in the American. Right. And the UCFs and the Cincy's of the world, and now the SMUs, they're all going to be gone here soon. SMU was the last of the remaining, so let East Carolina take some non-qualifiers, please.
What about Tulane?
Yeah.
Well, what about Memphis? Nonetheless, it would help us. I'm just telling you, based on
what will help us win games is NIL. That's our problem. That's a huge problem for us. We don't have people.
You know what, Dave? Are you telling me that we don't have as much NIL money as Marshall or Appalachian State?
I don't know. I mean,
there's no way. There's no way we don't have as much NIL money as Marshall or App State.
We lost 4 or 5 guys that would be starters on the team. 2 guys were on the offensive line.
We lost them to Illinois and then Oregon.
Auburn, he ended up going to Auburn, but
he went to Illinois and left us.
I know. I'm just saying, but we're not having enough people that take NIL seriously and they're in, the year 1975.
But it's not going to change. What Bubba's point is, Dave, we're not going to have more money than Illinois, Oregon, or Auburn, no matter what we do. But
we may not, but we still need to raise more.
We definitely need to be raised more, but we do not need to be able to put at a disadvantage to Appalachian State and Marshall, and that's what's being done by our conference to us.
My point is, like Kyle's saying, if you have, sure, we may be able to progress to the point. It's up to the coaching staff and the powers that be, as far as Team Boneyard are concerned, how they want to split that up. Whether they want to kind of do what we've heard SMU has done in other schools, as far as trying to pay all scholarship athletes in football or men's basketball a certain amount of money. We're certainly not to that point yet, but even so, whether we're doing that or there's some there's a little bit of a difference there. And Dave, I think you're getting a phone call.
Yep.
But we heard Nashad Strother and going to Oregon for supposedly six figures, but let's say it's not six figures. Let's say if it's 80 to 90 or so. That's still something that we're not going to be able to do, unless perhaps for just unless it's a stud quarterback and some donor really wants to step up like one did last year, trying to keep Keaton Mitchell around.
No, the thing is, Appalachian State and Marshall can go in the portal and take a kid that can barely write his name, and that's why he has to transfer out of Alabama or Georgia, and we can't.
And there's if those schools come calling with that amount of cash, and that's what that individual wants, is
right.
That appeal to money.
Right, I'm not arguing that, but still, we need to do there's a lot of games, but I understand that. But there's still a lot of guys that if we can have something there, but instead of like going to somebody's birthday party or whatever, we need to do better than that. And that's where we are now. We got to start somewhere.
Birthday party,
and let's but guys,
that's what they're paying them. Like you can have a party. And have the players come over and hang out by donating whatever.
Could I have the cheerleaders come over and hang out instead?
I don't know.
I don't. I mean, I look. I get what you're saying, and sure, more NIL money would be great, but the kind of NIL money you're talking about is going to require Vince McMahon or Mr. B, somebody like that, to step up. We need to do more with NIL, but Appalachian and Marshall is not doing more with NIL than we are. It's just, if they are, then shame on us.
But I'll tell you what they are. Now, here's what they are doing, guys. Just jump in. They're coaching. They have a great offensive system at both of those schools.
Well, not so much.
Especially that. Now, we can talk about NIL and indoor practice facilities till we're blue in the face. Here's what I want to talk about. All right. I want to talk about, we have a 4th and 1 last night at the goal line going in. And instead of calling a play and maybe using a 225-pound back like Kamaro Edmonds, like we saw last week, that can steamroll somebody, we inexplicably run to the line of scrimmage.
I hate that.
We run to the line of scrimmage and snap the ball so quickly the quarterback bobbles it and gets stuffed. Now that play right there could have cost us that game. That right there. So and listen, I get everything you guys are saying about we need more money. But we can't afford to make coaching mistakes, blunders like that on the field. What we should have done there was taken our time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, take your time. There's no need to rush there. There's no need
I hate it when teams do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I hate it. Put in your 225-pound back. All right.
Big dude.
Put your damn quarterback under center with 2 tight ends, and let's go to work.
Another thing I like there,
big play in the game, and it's stuff like that where you just can't make those mistakes, and we see them all the time, unfortunately.
Another thing I like there, something that we used to do a lot under Lincoln Riley, is we would get to the goal line and we'd fake it to the back, and then Carden would roll out to the right or left and just walk into the end zone because everybody's in the middle. Virginia Tech would be one example. Yes, yeah, we beat Virginia Tech doing that. But we did it other times too, in less impactful situations. I love that play. I think it works more times than not because everybody's going to the middle of. If last night, I guarantee you, if last night we went on 4th and goal and faked the handoff to the running back and Flynn rolled to the right, he'd have walked right into the end zone.
I agree, 1,000%.
As soon as Flynn, quickly.
Oh yeah, you knew it was going to be stopped.
Yeah, as soon as Flynn went immediately under center like that, I said, well, we're going to get stuffed.
We've got,
and if you're going to do that,
caller.
by the way, hey, Raji, I love you. You're a great player. Raji, if your quarterback's going to do that, look, pretend like it's a beautiful girl and go push him in the ass as hard as you can, please. I don't even know where Raji was on that play.
All right, we got another caller on the line. Let's go to Tom. What's up, Tom?
Hey guys, I'm just gonna. All I want to do is paint the thing straight, and that is we're used to a dynamic offense. We're used to an offense that can score at any time.
At will, yep.
Every time it snaps the ball, they could score right then. We don't have that now. Correct. That is it's plain and simple. We don't have it, and we were led to believe that we have it. And that's what's got us upset. And we should be upset. And I hear Kyle and I hear Matt. Matt knows exactly what I'm talking about. But we hear everybody saying the same thing. We are not dynamic. We are not creative.
Amen.
And that's just the reality of where we are.
No doubt. I mean,
agree with that. Totally agree with that, Tom.
And by the way, I was going to say one thing too is you guys hear me every single week, but why in the world can we not? Kyle talks about it. He and I agree. I know you guys do. It's got to be the right timing, but trick plays. I mean, why don't we? That's my frustration is why in the world don't we? I'm not saying go out there and be like a bunch of clowns and do it all the time, but games like this, the Marshall game and this game, a trick play at the right time, just like we were calling for all of us in the group text for the
Dave,
show.
You're asking for creativity, and there is none.
I would have onside kicked it after we tied it.
That's a good. Logan did that. Matt, remember that? Logan used to do that all the time and damn good at it. I miss.
There's all kinds of things I think during the game, and I'm sitting at home, but I'm not second guessing. I told Bubba, I texted him. Maybe it was in the group text, but I think it was a one-on-one text with Bubba on that last drive. I said, if we score here, I'd go for 2. There's no way in hell I'd take this game to overtime.
No. Speaking of Logan.
Yeah. And like I think to Tom's point about being creative, there are structurally there's so many things wrong right now with this offense, and like one of them, for an example, is we got into the red zone very often last night. I mean, we were set up to score numerous touchdowns last night, and we just don't do certain things. It's inexplicable to me that, like, for example, every team in college football, when they get inside the 5-yard line, see them play action. Because think about this. Think about why for a second. Because as a defender,
you're thinking run.
You're thinking you have to heavy up against the run. All right. So all your momentum is coming forward. The play action gets you to bite. And now you get free releases by tight ends and wide receivers. You see everybody run it in college football. We don't seem to value or appreciate play action in the red zone. It doesn't make sense.
Another thing is throwing to the running backs in the red zone.
Yeah.
Play action is exactly what Kyle was talking about when he talked about Carden spreading out to the, faking up the middle and then spreading out to the outside. That was play action.
Play action run.
And it was run pass option. Let him flare out to the one side or the other, and then let him make a decision. This kid doesn't even get the chance to make a decision.
Well, think about how we scored our first touchdown of this season. That was when the defense forced a turnover at the Marshall 3-yard line, and what do? We play action pass to Shane Calhoun. I was hoping that's what we were going to do when we got down there 1st and goal at the 3 to start the second half. I was hoping we were going to play action pass to Shane Calhoun, or I want to say it was 2nd down when we lined Shane up in a wing to the left, and I want to say we kept him in and blocked, which I guess on one hand is understandable considering our struggle to protect at times, but at the same time, I think it was 2nd and goal where we threw the slot fade to Brock Spalding. I would have liked to have seen us, if we weren't going to run the play that I referenced that we ran against Marshall, then perhaps run double slants to that side, and then motion Calhoun across the formation, and then have him on a flat route where you're either throwing the slant or the flat.
Well, you know what scares me?
They were playing man-to-man coverage.
Go ahead, Tom. Tom's trying to say something.
I said that's 10 times more creative. What Bubba just described is 10 times more creative than what we saw.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of things we're lacking right now. Creativity is one of them. I do think we lack playmaking ability with some talent, particularly at receiver. But to your point, Tom, if you like playmakers, you need to be even more creative.
Yes.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, guys. How often do you see us get players in space where it's just a walk-in touchdown? I mean, you watched college football yesterday. I saw 15, 20 times offensive coordinators dial up plays where you get players in space and they're literally wide open. And that's by design. It's by design.
Bond, man.
We
give
see
it to Bond in space. I'd love for us to throw it to Bond in space and see who he can make miss.
Absolutely, man. There's no doubt. He's a guy that can make plays. But, I just think the offense, I think it's broken. I'm just going to say, I think it's broken. I think it's the wrong offense for East. I think it's obviously wrong, but why is it wrong? The reason why is because it relies on the things we don't get. Power running game relies on great offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. We don't get them. We can't get them. We have to have some sort of a scheme. Kyle, last night you talked a lot about what Rich Rod is doing, right? He's got an identity. He's got a scheme. Mm-hmm. We talk about why was Chadwell successful at Coastal? Because he had a scheme.
Right.
Yeah. And look, if Mike Houston wants to stay here and he wants to be a running football team, I would look hard at what Rich Rod is doing and has done throughout his career. Maybe hire the OC from Jacksonville State and bring that system in here, provided Houston doesn't go 1-11 and get the can. That fits his personality. He wants to run the ball, yet it spreads things out and it allows for some creativity.
No doubt. And thank you, by the way, for people watching, listening. The most we've had. That's amazing. But it's all because of a tough one.
It's all because we're losing and misery loves company.
Ellie, go ahead, Bubba.
The evolution of our ground game under Lincoln Riley. I mean, that first year, we didn't run it a whole lot, but we did have some success when we ran it. But as his 5-year stint here wore on, we ran it more and more. And you look at 2013, we had an 1,000-yard rusher in Tay Cooper. I mean,
I think he ran for 1,000 yards in 12 and 13.
Correct. In 12 and 13, because Keaton Mitchell in 21 and 22, that was the first back-to-back 1,000-yard rusher that we had since then. So
we're getting another caller there.
Yeah, you have more.
Yeah, we are.
They will take that and get the caller on the air. But no, I'm with you, and we'll take the call now and see what they want to talk about, and then I'll come back to my point. So waiting on Dave to get the caller on the air.
All right.
Hello.
Hey, Stevie, what's up, man?
Oh, it's Stevie. I didn't make my point for Stevie.
Stevie,
baby.
It's Stevie.
Stand by for translation, please.
Yeah. I'll
Kyle,
be
say it one more time, please.
All right, I got you, Stevie.
Guys, I'm sitting here listening to y'all and watching the Taylor Swift game right now. So
That's a line of the night.
Well, shake it off, Stevie.
Anyway,
Stevie the
you know,
Swifty.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
Kyle. I got that, by the way. You know,
That was great,
yeah,
Kyle.
go on, Kyle. That was a good one, Kyle. Way to think on your feet.
shake it off. Wow.
Appreciate it.
Shake it off. Shake it off. That's what they're telling Kelsey when he takes a hit. They play that song every time he takes a hit now.
Oh my God, they're going to get so sick of Taylor Swift in Kansas City. I bet some people already are.
Well, they're not tonight because she's not there.
Anyway, yeah, she is here. She is there. I thought she was there.
She's at the game, but I thought it was on the
anyway.
road. But anyway,
Nonetheless,
Anyway,
they're going to
yeah,
get sick of it. Who gives a shit about Taylor Swift? Go ahead, Steve.
I do. Go ahead.
Well,
I think
Not when it comes to the show.
Talking about what Dave, and I don't think it's come across. Dave was talking about trick plays, but just like I told you that night against Marshall, Dave, on that third down play right before we missed that field goal.
Man, God knows we were talking about it. I told people that
the thing is, you don't have to use a trick play. You just have to use you have to set up plays.
yeah.
You know, you're running up the middle, run up, just like you guys talk about. Carden doesn't score walking in against Virginia Tech if you're not pounding the ball up the middle over and over. You know, do something, do a counter, do a bootleg like that. I mean, that third down play against Marshall, that I mean, I'll say to this day, we get that third down conversion, we win that game.
Yeah,
Probably.
And, he just and I like what the last caller said about, and it's being creative, and you know, God knows, don't get me wrong, I'm not. Well, I guess I am criticizing them in a way, but I'm a private school, high school football coach, and you know, I know how to set plays up for later on. A lot of times, my guys are like, "Why you keep calling this? Why you keep calling this?" I said, "I'm setting up something else. When it happens, you'll know. You know, you want to bring get that defense lowered into where, okay, they're going to run this, they're going to run this, and then you do something, a counter, or you do a bootleg. It's that simple. This simple offense, I don't know. I don't understand it. I'm like Matt. I think Matt said it, and I mean, he couldn't have said it any better. I think the offense is broken right now.
Yep.
You know, the frustration thing is, Stevie, is that you know, it's Matt, help me out on this, and Stevie as well, and Bubba, but it's like you have a game plan you come up with, and you've got offensive analysts, you have plenty of offensive coaches, and the frustration is, just like you said, is the fact that you have a game plan and you have the coaches divide up, unless Houston's different, but usually they have, okay, Stevie takes Marshall, Kyle is going to take App, Matt will take SMU, I'm going to take, Rice.
Well, that's prep. That's the but you have game week prep where the OC is going to hone in on his game plan.
Right, but I'm just saying, right. Well, what my point is that it's not like this is their first time at calling a game. It's not like ever. It's not like that they just looked at Rice for this past week, and not only that, but like we were talking about, I was just I was frustrated at the fact that, we've had plenty of time to prepare for Rice, and it's
well,
like,
I think the game plan was to throw the ball on them because they have a horrible pass defense, and we did that. The problem is the problem is we didn't execute. We didn't hit big plays in the passing game more. I think they thought we were going to hit more big plays in the passing game than we did. So that's one problem right there. And then the other problem is we got in the red zone. We did not execute in the red zone, and it was poor play calling in the red zone. Also, terrible play calling in the red zone.
Yeah. Then I texted you last night, Kyle. I said we can't keep going in the red zone getting field goals. We got to get.
You're going to lose. You're going to lose. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of 2000. I believe it was 09. I'm getting my years mixed up. It was at UVA. I believe it was 09 at UVA, where we should have been up on them 21-0. We ended up losing the ball game because the first three possessions we settled for field goals. Yep. Anybody remember that game?
Yeah.
2008.
Oh, wait, okay.
Yeah, because we were coming off we had back-to-back losses at NC State and then at home against Houston. And then we go up there, like you're saying, got off to a very good start, moving the ball up and down the field and led 6-0 or something.
Yeah, no, it was like
couple of Ben Hartman field goals, I guess, or perhaps he was injured and somebody else that day. But yeah, nonetheless, I remember, like you're saying, Kyle, looking to my dad and saying, "Hey, hope this doesn't come back to bite us."
Yeah, no, and it will every time. And I'm not saying, I told them, in fact, I text y'all. I said, I wish on that third down play that we didn't score on the fourth down play. I said, I almost wish Flynn would have lost yardage so we'd have kicked the field goal there and it went up. That play killed our momentum. It gave Rice all the momentum, and we never got it back.
You wish instead of gaining 2 yards on the quarterback draw that he had gotten tackled for a loss, so go up 12-10.
Exactly. At least then you keep the momentum.
That's where we are.
Yep.
And again, guys, like the thing with this, and Steve, I'll throw this out to you. I mean, the thing with this team that's just so difficult is it's when you correct one thing, something else opens up. So here's an example.
Right? Exactly.
So last night we score, we get the 2-point conversion, we tie the game. At that point, we have all momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing you can hope for at this point is your defense gets a 3 and out. You get the ball back to your offense, and now you're rolling. But right at that key situation, that is a critical moment for your defense to get a stop. What do we do? What do we do?
The big play.
We give up the big play, and they score.
Yeah.
Now we're back. We're down a touchdown again.
And I felt, Matt, I felt, even though the defense have played well, I feel like we're so fragile. I thought they would panic in that situation. That's why I would have onside kicked it there, because if we don't get it, you put them in a short field, and maybe the defense comes out with their hair on fire, saying, "All right, we got a short field. We got to get a stop here." Well, we played pretty well with them on the other side of the 50 anytime they got down there. I think it would have been a great, and I know, ifs and buts and fruits and nuts and second guessing, but I think that would have been a great spot to onside kick it.
And maybe we're going to have to coach that way. I mean, Stevie, what do you think about? I mean, maybe we have to coach that way, because
I think we do right now, Matt.
Yeah, I think we do. I mean, it's not ideal, but I think that's the situation we're in now, where you're going to have to do stuff like that. But I don't know. I'll say this. I agree with you, Kyle. Defense played a lot better against that quarterback than I thought they would. I was worried. I was really worried about that quarterback was going to hurt us, but he didn't really hurt us like he did.
Yeah, one leg. I hate to see what he would have done with both legs.
Yeah, well, still. I mean, but still, you know how our secondary's been.
Yeah, but I think we've made some personnel changes back there, and we're playing.
I think we're okay there.
Guys. I think
yeah.
I think the biggest problem with our defense is they get worn out in the fourth quarter. Some of that's contributed to the offense leaving them on the field too much. Still, it's no
3 and out. 3 and out.
So, Matt, what are your thoughts on that? Yeah, do you use that as an excuse when you played the offense leaving us on the field too much? Logan scored too fast, some people said. Or do you got to go out there and make a play?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely a real thing when you're left on the field too long. So I guess, but yeah, I mean, you're at that point when you're on the sideline before you come out on the field, the defense is together, and you're saying, listen, we need to understand the situation here. We're in a chance to win this game. We need a stop right now. We need a stop, and we got to suck it up, and we got to do whatever needs to be done to get a stop. And so I think it's both of those things, Kyle. But it just seems like when we're at that critical point, when we really need that stop, it seems like we can't get it.
Okay, I got a question for you, Matt. And I've always wondered about this, especially at the college and the pro level. When you guys are sitting on the sideline on defense, and your offense keeps going 3 and out, you guys, I know you have to go out there and do it. How long before you guys start getting frustrated with that offense?
Well, if it's a one game, if it's a one-off type thing, you really don't get too frustrated, because you kind of understand the situation, and you're just kind of focusing on what you need to do. This is what I need to do when I go back on the field. But in this situation, Stevie, where it's like almost every single week, where that's when it's multiple weeks in a row, that's when the frustration really starts to set in, and it it can really cause some problems internally on a team because now you start to get the finger pointing. People start pointing fingers, and that's where we're at right now. I mean, we're seeing that right now.
The reason I'm laughing, Matt, is because I'm thinking about Stevie and asking you that question. And I was like, and at first I thought to myself, well, damn, Stevie, don't you talk to your defensive players on the sideline where Stevie coaches? His offensive players are his defensive players. So if they're mad at the defense, they're mad at themselves.
They're mad at themselves. Look, there's been years, dude. I don't have to count to see if I got 8 on the field. I count to see if I got like 3 on the sideline with me. And I know I've got enough on the field.
That's what I used to do as a coach. We never.
So it's not, and it's just the way it is. But yeah, they can't. It doesn't apply in our situation because they have to stay on the field no matter what. Iron Man football.
You would think, you don't get you don't see a lot of 8. Stevie, have you ever had a guy playing 8-man football? You've been a head coach there for 13 years. Have you had a guy recruited to a D1 school?
No, I haven't. And I haven't none that I've played against or coached against. I've never played 8-man, but none that I've coached against I don't think has gone Division 1. I do know. Oh gosh, it was a kid from Tampa that played for Tampa Bay a few years back that got drafted in the first round. And what's the name? Leighton Vander Esch from the Cowboys played 8-man football in high school. So
you would think it would make you really well conditioned going into Division 1 football. You think you'd be really well conditioned, is my point.
Well, you should be because when we started out with playing 8-man, if you got to the corner, you were gone. I mean, it's just all it is to it. But I don't know what it is now, but it seems like certain teams, if you got speed, you're going to get there. But now it's we're in a lot of more low scoring games than high scoring.
Wow.
And because I try to push defense. I want a defensive team, which we've had some struggles this year, but I want a really good defensive team. I think we've had some scores like 16-12, stuff like that, some barn burners like that. But 8-man is wide open, dude. If you get to the corner, you got speed. You're gonna. It used to be, I think there was one score this year. I saw 75-40 was one score. So that was more to what we used to see at first. But it would be nothing to put 40 points in a game on an 8-man.
Oh, no doubt.
I'd like to score 40.
Well, we did last week.
Yeah, unfortunately. But that's another thing that scares me, guys. We scored 1 touchdown against Rice. That is the worst defense we will see the rest of the way. And Bubba, Matt, and Stevie, Dave, unless I'm missing somebody on our schedule that I'm not thinking of, I don't think anybody else is even close to being as bad on defense. Now, Charlotte on offense is about as bad as we are. But in terms of being bad on defense, I don't really think anybody else on our schedule can come close to being as bad as Rice is on defense.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe we win that Charlotte game 11-9 or 8-6 or something.
like a baseball score.
3-2.
But no, in all seriousness, as far as the lack of production, and I'm going to focus on the production against FBS opponents. I know Dave references putting 44 on Gardner Webb, but against our 4 FBS opponents, and we've scored, I think it's 15.3 points per game, and that's including that's including 2 defensive touchdowns. So you take those 2 defensive touchdowns,
holy shit,
and you're averaging less than 12 points per game offensive production.
That first touchdown we scored of the season, we got set up at the 3-yard line.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're averaging.
That might as well been a defensive touchdown.
Right. So you're averaging 11 or 12 points per game as far as your offensive production against FBS teams. So 4 touchdowns in 4 games, and one of those was that 3-yard drive.
And that's what I was telling Matt last night. I don't know that we can win this year playing a traditional offense. I don't know that our best bet to win football games is to do things like onside kick. Yeah. I don't know that the best bet right now, if you look back at Mason's running performance against Marshall and how good their defense is, I don't know that we wouldn't be better off putting 2 backs back there and running Mason Garcia and running those 2 backs and and throwing it deep every now and then, kind of like a triple option offense. We've got to do something. If we're going to win now and not just build for next year, we are going to have to be creative.
Exactly. I bet we've been saying that, every different way, every angle of creativity we've talked about. And again, that like you were talking about Stevie and Matt. Go ahead, Stevie.
He's going to have to come up with some different stuff. I mean, I know we want to run the ball. We want to run, and you can still do that, but you got to be a little bit more creative with your play calling. I mean, he's no Lincoln Riley, that's for sure. But
Donnie knows
everybody is on.
Donnie knows that system. Donnie knows that system, Steve. He was Lincoln Riley's receivers coach. So, how much of this is on Houston? How much of it's on Donnie? I can tell you the play calling. Some of the play calling last night was atrocious, and that goes straight to Donnie. Unless Mike Houston's vetoing everything and saying no, do this. I don't know how much he micromanages, but I know Donnie has the ability to run the air raid. You can't implement it mid-season, but he knows how to run it.
But guys, let's get the elephant in the room.
Well, what's the problem? What's the problem then? Is it personnel, or is he not trust his personnel to do some of that stuff, or what?
Well, as far as the air raid, I don't think he's being allowed to. I think we want to be.
I agree.
Oh no, I mean I know that. Yeah,
but
he doesn't have the. I don't know if he has the. If Mason's not going to throw the ball down the field, and Flynn could probably do it, but why you run an air raid if you got a quarterback with a strong arm that doesn't want to throw down the field?
Yeah, Flynn could. We need more receivers to do. We just got to come up with some creativity, and we'll go ahead and go to this. And it's something that people have brought up, and I don't know how much y'all want to discuss it. A lot of people want Donnie gone now, and if you're going to make a change, now would be the time to do it. We're not advocating for anything like that. Just speculating. Do you think just with Shane Montgomery, I'm assuming is who would get the position. Shane's had some success as OC. He's been a head coach. He was a head coach. He was OC at JMU for a couple of years under Kurt Stignetti. Then he was OC at Buffalo. He was head coach at Miami of Ohio back in the day. Do you think at this point it would really make a difference if Shane Montgomery took over play calling, or would you just, I'm not asking what y'all would do. Do you think it could make a difference?
I'll jump in on this one. I think it could. Here's the thing. If you're going to make that change, right? If Mike Houston, what he has to do is basically say, I am giving you the reins to coach this offensive team the way you want to coach it. If we were to do that, then you could see some significant changes. Now, if Mike Houston was to bring in another play caller, but continue to kind of dictate the philosophy that he wants, it's going to look exactly the same.
Exactly.
The only way to really get true change is to basically turn over the reins and say, listen, this is your offense. You're going to run it the way you see fit. All right. And you can kind of call the plays as you want to call them. And we don't really know. And this is where it gets tricky with Donnie, because you guys made the point that Donnie he was with Lincoln Riley. And you wonder why he doesn't utilize those principles more often in this offense. And my theory is that because Mike Houston wants him to run this type of offense, and that's it. And he's kind of stuck within that system. We don't really know that. Nobody's ever going to admit to it, but things can change. This is a very long answer. I apologize, but things can change. But you really have to, and I don't know if you guys agree with that. I think if you're going to make the change, you have to say, listen, this is your offense. You go run it.
Yeah. Maybe you do it with the guy that's there.
Do it with Donnie. I mean, that's the thing. Donnie's not the problem. Donnie's definitely not the problem.
I don't know if he is or not. We need to. I'd love to be in those meetings.
I'm not ready to say he's not the problem right now.
I mean, if
I'll have to, because here's the thing, Dave. It's just, and he may be being told what to call and what not to call, but it's just so predictable. Yeah. Everything is just so predictable that defenses and
You're helping the
these are
defense.
college defenses that a defensive coordinator is going to pick up on that and say, okay, this is what he's going to do. You can't be predictable in that situation. Especially, I mean, that made me so frustrated that game that night. You saw how frustrated I was after that. He called that play. I mean, I was like, gosh, no, do something, a fake or something. It's something simple.
You want to see frustration? You should have seen me last night. My dog, look, we got 2 dogs, and my dog Nikki's a yellow lab German Shepherd mix, and she was terrified. I don't beat this dog. I don't hit this dog. I love my dog to death. And I was so frustrated and mad last night. She was terrified. Just this 80-pound, 85-pound dog sitting in my wife's lap. That's how frustrated I was.
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, especially when we want to go to a bowl game. Guess how you go to a bowl game? You got to beat Rice. So now you have to win 5 out of 7 to have a prayer to go to a bowl.
No, we ain't going to a bowl. A bowl? Cereal bowl? Toilet bowl?
He said, "I just want to beat beef steak."
Yeah, exactly. Just beat Biff and Charlotte at this point.
Charlotte.
We
talking about. I'm gonna do my Allen Iverson. We talking about Charlotte.
Right. We talking about.
Yeah. If we were to at this point in the season, if we were to somehow win 4 more games and get to 5 wins, I'd be like, hell yeah, we're going to win the national championship next year. That's how good of a turnaround winning 5 games would be this year at this point.
Well, Matt, you did it in 97. Your team did it in 97.
Yeah,
Matt.
well, yeah. Steve Logan can be creative.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he turned it around. They rolled off. They got to 5 wins.
They were 1-5, right? 1-5, Matt.
Yeah, 1-5. They rolled off 4 straight. Got to 5-5, then lost NC State. But Logan changed what he was doing. Him and Doug Martin. Had some creativity.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the point right now where if you're going to change something, you need to do it now.
Exactly. You got not all the time in the world, but you wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, we did 97, if everybody remembers. And Matt, you were on that team, so you should remember it well. What we did in 97 is we couldn't run block. We had Scott Harley, and without the offensive line we had in 96, Scott Harley was about as useful as a broke down Harley Davidson. And we abandoned the run. We almost were an air raid offense for the second half of the season under Logan.
All right, here's my question. What do you abandon if you on this team this year? What is your strength on this team right now?
You know what I told Matt last night? I think I would do, and I said earlier in the podcast, I believe I would. Even though I think Flynn's the better traditional quarterback, I don't think we can win that way. I think I would put Mason under center, and I'd run wildcat stuff. I'd run triple option stuff.
I agree.
And then when I throw it, I'd be throwing it deep when they weren't expecting it. I think that gives us our best chance to win. Maybe I'm crazy, but that's probably what I would do.
No,
when
we
you
saw
say
that
triple option stuff. Are you talking about traditional triple option, or are you talking about from the gun?
Talking about from the gun. I'm not talking about.
I was about to say, yeah. As far as under center, that ain't going to happen.
No. I'm talking from the gun. Run a wildcat type stuff.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another thing.
I like that
about being flexible. Sorry, Dave, I didn't mean to cut you off, buddy. But I listen, people are going to be like, probably think I'm crazy for saying this, but I have no hesitation at this point, none whatsoever. If like to that point about running some wildcat and maybe some option type principles, like a Coastal would run from the pistol.
Yep.
If Jeter is my most athletic quarterback, I have no hesitation using him at this point either, because you have nothing to lose. I don't think we're going bowling this year. So whoever provides me with the best opportunity to do it, I'm going to do it. If I have to burn some red shirts, I'm going to burn them.
No, I'm with you.
You look at this, and really, I mean, this is in the modern era. I mean, as far as I've been following East Carolina football, I mean, this is
worst.
You think back, the worst offense. Because you think back, even in 2017 under Mo, we're 24.9 points per game and had some big play potential there. And with Trayvon Brown,
yeah,
you had 2004, and we averaged just 21 points per game in the second year of John Thompson. And 93 was a
God,
disaster.
that was the worst offensive line I've ever seen.
And 93 was a disaster because of the quarterback situation. Losing Marcus Crandall in game 2 against UCF, and we averaged just 15.9 points per game that year. You think about that. As bad as that was, and you weren't running as many plays then, we averaged 15.9 right now. Like I said, as far as our offensive production in the first 4 games against FBS opponents, you take out Gardner Webb, and it's less than 12 points per game. And
as I said to somebody last night, our offense this year is the equivalent to Scotty Montgomery defense. Our offense is Scotty Montgomery defense bad. It really is.
No, you're right. That's a good point. Because that's what's so frustrating, Matt. You're a defensive guy. This is the best defense we've seen in a good while. And if we had of course, it's Lincoln Riley, but if you have a Lincoln Riley offense in our defense,
have a mediocre offense, and we're 3-2.
Yeah. I mean, the frustration by the fans is stop being stubborn. I mean, I don't know how many times I have to, but it's stubbornness. I really believe that. Did we lose a lot of offensive talent? Yes, but we still have talent. The cupboard is not bare. It's time to put heat on Mike Houston. Please stop being stubborn. And we're the friendlies. We're the guys that like you. So please stop.
I do think talent is part of the issue, but you have to be more creative. The less talent you have, the more creative you have to be.
But what I'm saying is some people want to make it out like we have no talent, like the cupboard's bare. I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that some coaches, it's like this. Some of the best coaches are the ones that hold on just 1 second. Hold on 1 second. You have some of the best coaches that are Hall of Famers, and they say, okay, this is my system, but we don't have the talent to fit that system or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to do everything in my power to win the game. You have those folks or the Mike Houstons who say, I'm stubborn as hell, and if I go down, I'm going to go down with my offense and my defense. Hey, the defense is doing well, so that lets you know the defensive part of the ball is fine. I would say stop being stubborn on the offensive side of the ball. He's a CEO of the program. Who else are you going to blame?
The last thing you want to do when you do have talent deficiencies is to try to play a vanilla offense, and that's what we're doing. Last night we were more pass heavy, but it was still extremely vanilla. There's got to be some creativity with coaching. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, I would have onside kicked it. You've got to do some different things. There's got to be some. To me, the less talent you have, the more creative you have to be.
Yeah, Matt. When you have a guy when you have a Coach Logan, I loved it. The fake field goals, fake punts, onside kicks. I mean, how much more and going for it at the end of the ball game instead of going to overtime. I mean, you got to appreciate the man had guts.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt he did. And you look at some of the really great coaches in college football, and I feel like I talk about this guy all the time. But Norvell from Florida State,
yeah.
If you watch the way he calls plays, and this is going back to his days at Memphis, all right? So I'm not just talking about now that he has elite talent, but if you watch the way he calls games to win. He never gets tightened up. As a matter of fact, when the game gets tighter, his offense opens up. Yep. And you see that from Lincoln Riley. You see the same thing. The great play callers, they don't call games tight. And they instill a certain confidence in their team.
Right.
Like I remember one of the things Ruffin and Lincoln used to talk about all the time when they were here was making the routine plays. What was a routine play? It could have been like a 10-yard hitch to Justin Hardy. Mm-hmm. It's just a pitch and catch. And they talked about those things, and they instill confidence in their team. And you could just see the confidence when they stepped on the field. They had a system in place. Everybody was on the same page. They knew what they were doing. And they said, this is what we're going to do. This is who East Carolina is. This is our identity. You need to stop it. And, again, not to sound like a broken record, but we still don't have that identity. It needs to change. It has to change. It has to be scrapped. You saw Mike Houston after his first year here. He made a change defensively to go to Blake Harrell, which I thought was a really good move because his system, I prefer his type of system to what we had before here. Now, I'm not calling for anybody to be fired. We never. One thing I want to say is we never call for anybody to be fired on the show. I don't think
Not yet.
No, but
No.
if Donnie's the guy, and I really like Donnie a lot. I think.
And by the way, Matt, to be
But-
for all fairness, in the past we have called for people to be fired before you were part of the show.
All right, well, how
At
about
one point,
this?
this whole podcast was
I'll say
predicated.
this year.
Kind of
But
Now,
but
during
yeah,
the first year, what we did.
Yeah,
and Bubba was a quarterback at the collegiate level. I mean, just in
Correct.
terms of an identity, how important is that? I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, you can talk to that.
and Matt, I'd stepped away for a moment and you said talk to the importance of what?
your identity as an offense as
A
a
team.
quarterback at the collegiate level.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, it's huge. I mean, you got to have something to be able to hang your hat on, and and that's the thing. We've just everything there's been so much inconsistency and just the struggles. You can tell that we're searching for answers. Because some people may say that we're not trying different things, and I do think there at times you're never going to agree with all the play calls, but like last night we threw the ball 44 times, and there were who knows probably another at least 5 or 6 times where Alex took off running. So I mean, you might as well say that we threw the ball 50 plus times last night as far as what was called, and you saw that last year at times when we weren't having a whole lot of success running the ball against NC State or other teams, and it was good to see us not bang our head against the wall and do what was successful. And we threw the ball pretty successfully on first down. I think we had at least 5 or 6 plays, 10 yards or more, and I want to say 3 that were in excess of 20 yards. And like Kyle mentioned earlier, and the commentators mentioned last night, I think it was about halfway through the second quarter when we had a play in excess of 20 yards. They said that is just the 7th play this year in 4.5 games that East Carolina has had a play over 20 yards on offense, whether it's running or passing.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, I have a glitch. I don't know who that is on YouTube. Makes a great point. This is a great. Even Stevie, you're still with us, right?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, just want to double check. All right, so I have a glitch just talking about burning the red shirts. Don't even worry about red shirts. And I think that to his point, I will say, I assume it's a gentleman. If it's a lady, I apologize. But to the point, we got to win at any cost, obviously legally, but we got to win and give these guys experience. I remember my coach, my senior year, said, if I can lose with seniors, I can lose with sophomores. Matt, what do you think about that, Bubba, Kyle? Should we burn
in the day and age of the transfer portal, if a kid ain't ready, he ain't ready. But if you got a kid that's a freshman that you think can contribute to the team, you better put him on the field.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Whoever gives you the best chance to win. Now, if I have 2 equal players of equal ability, my preference is to go with the senior. That's just my preference because of the fact that he's paid his dues in the program. I think it's good for the program, but you play the best player. If the best player is a sophomore, if the best player is a freshman, right now, if Bond is our best playmaker on offense, he needs to get more touches than anybody else.
Absolutely.
And I think Mike Houston, he's done that. He's proven time and again that he's willing to do that. I mean, you look at 2020 with Rajay and Keaton, and you had a guy who had been in the program for a few years that Mike Houston was fond of from a personal standpoint, and also some of the things that he did on the field in various minutes. But Keaton Mitchell and Rajay Harris, quickly became our running backs that year, and both did some nice things to be true freshmen. And then you've seen it. I've seen it at times, and you've seen
Nick
it again
Miller.
this year at the running back position with Javius Bond And I'm trying to think of some of the other examples.
Marlon Gunn last year.
Yeah, Marlon Gunn last year.
True freshman. And what's
Coach Houston is not afraid to play a true freshman, especially at those skill positions.
Right. I think the point is though, Bubba, as far as we're talking about, when we're talking about depth, I think what he's saying is, as far as burning the red shirt, meaning if you got those players and you're having a tough time winning, maybe some of those players can provide a spark, and so you won't have to. And it also, if we're talking about,
he's probably referring. He's probably he didn't say it, but he's probably talking about Raheem Jeter.
That, or certainly if there's anybody on the line, there's any guy's receiver. Bill Watson saying that Bond is the best player. Why isn't he playing more? That's a good question. I mean, if he's got,
I've heard Bond has some durability issues that he may not be quite up to be the primary back yet from a physical standpoint. He gets, I don't know if it's winded. Bubba, have you heard this?
That would be my guess. And then also you got to remember pass protection. I'm not talking about Javius being an issue for Javius because I haven't zeroed in on him like that. But as far
he did need to get more touches last night,
but Rajay is obviously the bigger back and has a lot of experience in that. And I noticed multiple times last night that, and we talked about not getting the ball to Shane Calhoun, but because of our issues, we're not able to release Shane Calhoun and Rajay Harris, et cetera, into routes as much as we'd like because we need better protection.
Would you do more two back just so you could leave one of them in a protection? I know you're going to have one less receiver, but would you do? We've done a little bit of it. Would you do more two back stuff?
Perhaps. I mean, I think we gotta get Javius as many touches as possible.
Absolutely. And Kyle, you brought up a great point weeks ago about Rajay or any of the guys. We talked about Lincoln Riley a lot tonight. But that short passing game, when you throw the ball
every
out.
time you say Lincoln Riley, for whatever reason, I think of Captain Bill. And I appreciate Captain Bill last night giving me a shout out on the show. Actually, was something nice. But on the fifth quarter calling, Josie. So I appreciate that, Captain Bill. But I remember when he used to call in the fifth quarter calling show and goes, Lincoln Riley sucks. But anyway, go ahead.
Now, very quickly on Johnny Robertson, as far as he said that's not accurate at all. Halfway through the second quarter last night, they were saying coming into last night that we had only had that limited number of plays. But yes, last night that was much better because you had, as you mentioned, Johnny, 5+ plays of 20 or more yards last night. You had the big pass play to Josiah Hatfield. You had another 20-yard out route to Josiah Hatfield. I can think of those two right off the top of my head.
And one touchdown.
Yeah.
So, hey, Johnny, no offense,
and that's
but
kind of the
stats are for
odd thing
losers.
that we were talking about earlier today, Kyle, is how we had been pretty good in the red zone prior to last night. We were scoring touchdowns about 65+% of the time. And
unfortunately
last night it was 20% of the time.
Yeah, I shouldn't have talked about that. Should have. I praised how at least when we got in the red zone, we took advantage of it. And last night, we got in the red zone multiple times, and boy, didn't take advantage of anything except made some field goals. But hey, hats off to our kicker, Conrad Thompson, Jimmy Christmas. Stevie would have laughed at that one if he was still in the air. Conrad,
Andrew Conrad.
Yeah, thank you.
Conrad.
If you don't know Conrad Thompson, Conrad Thompson hosts multiple wrestling podcasts.
Yeah.
Andrew Conrad.
Who the heck is Conrad Thompson?
Well, Dave knew who he was, and Stevie would have died laughing if Stevie.
That's why I laughed. He's the pod father, Bubba. He's the pod father.
Yeah, I can't stand him. But he hats off to Conrad last night. He made all his field goals and his one extra point.
James Cutler says, "We're not good up front. That quarterback sneak attempt was what our season is about. Summed up in one play. It all starts up front."
I hate that, man. If you're a quarterback sneak it, don't run it up to the line.
And a very, very interesting statistic from Stephen Igo at Hoist of Colors. He had pulled this from Pro Football Focus, and that is, on our dropbacks last night, which I said was roughly 50 attempts, give or take, on 48 or 49% of those that Alex Flynn had received pressure.
Wow. And
Yeah.
then at times, I heard Marcus talking about this last night, or it was either him or Nichols on the fifth quarter. That there was times because he was getting so much pressure that he started feeling ghost pressure, and he didn't get happy feet, but he got rid of the ball before he needed to.
Right.
But
And there was a time where Rice, we were in a 3-by-1 set where we had 3 receivers to the field and a single receiver into the boundary, and Rice brought a safety blitz, and Alex recognized that and threw I wanted to say is a fade ball into the boundary, where if it was actually, it's understandable why he did it, but at the same time it was picked up pretty well that time by the offensive line, and we had time, and we had a rub route to the trips come open, very, very much like the one there in the fourth quarter of the Marshall game, where it was a 3rd and 6 situation, and and it could have been a first down or perhaps a touchdown.
Matt, do you care to share with the world what you told me last night? If you don't, you don't have to. We'll move on. Just wanted to ask if you wanted to share that or not.
Which part though? I shared a lot
about our offensive line coach.
No, no.
Okay, all right. We'll just leave everyone in suspense.
I think
I can't. Yeah, I just think that like
Gotcha. No problem.
Yeah, I think that I believe though that when it's all said and done.
And by the way, to be clear on that was nothing negative about our offensive line coach. It was nothing Matt and derogatory. It was something he was told in confidence, and he wants to keep it that way.
And I will say this again: if things stay the same, then you have to blame the coaching staff. It doesn't matter what you think about the talent, not talent, whatever. The bottom line is the coaching has to change, and if it doesn't change, we'll be 1-11, maybe 2-10.
Guys, I'll say this as it relates to the offensive line. Because we're talking, we're obviously, hey, look, we're all being critical of what we see. I want to, we talk about solutions. One of the things that I would really do this offseason, and not to just fast forward over the rest of this year, but I think in order for Mike Houston to be successful here, first he's got to reevaluate the type of offensive lineman he's getting into the program. But I would hit the portal heavily on the O-line.
JUCO. I don't think we can, Matt.
Or JUCO. Or JUCO.
I think portal's hard for us on offensive line because they go first. But who the hell's recruiting junior colleges anymore?
Well,
that's a great
that would
question.
be great because you're getting players who have experience, which is great. But I'm telling you, I would hit it so heavy. I wouldn't hesitate to bring in 4 or 5 guys this year that, or however you want to call it, like portal, JUCO, guys that have game experience, and because this right now this line, it's a patchwork offensive line when you think about it. And let's face it, the losses of Strother and Avery Jones, they were huge losses.
Yeah.
But we're not protecting the quarterback. We're not opening holes on a consistent basis in the running game. And I do think, I'll tell you, I think that the offensive line coach, I think he's a very good coach. He's highly respected. I think he's just not working with enough talent at this point.
All right, we did have guys, we do have a phone call. Well, actually, we lost the call. Can they call back? And our number is 252-290-0375, 252-290-0375.
Last call for your calls. That call will call back. And if you want to call in now because we ain't going to be on the air too much longer.
We do have a comment from Andy Gross. Andy saying talent on the offensive side of the ball equates to making plays. Houston is right when he says we didn't make as many plays. Let's be honest. How many real plays has anyone made on offense this year? Have made a few layups, absolutely, but we need players to man up, and we quite simply haven't seen that thus far, and thus the 1-4 record.
Amen,
So,
Andy.
Well, I mean, he's kind of saying the opposite of what you're saying, Dave. I mean, he's talking about it's the players. You're talking about the play calling. I think it's some of both.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two, but I would lean more personnel and inexperience. But yes, certainly, I think there's plenty of blame to go around. But at the same time, as far as the lack of plays I referenced, I guess now we probably have about 10, 11 plays over 20 yards this year, something of that nature. And then,
who do we have besides? Let's think about it. Who do we have?
I think we've had one play over 40 yards,
Yeah.
and that was that run that Mason Garcia had against Marshall. That was, I think, 57. And you just think back to last year, all those plays.
Oh man,
be it receiving or rushing that Keaton Mitchell had in excess of 50 yards, and then also all the big pass plays that you had over 50 yards to CJ, or 30, 40 yards to CJ Johnson.
Yeah, I just wonder, who do we have? Mason's a playmaker, but we don't have him on the field because he doesn't. He's scared to throw the ball. So who do we have that's capable of making big plays? Bond, Jalen Johnson, if he'll catch the ball so well, he's going to eventually be good. He ain't there yet. He's a good possession receiver right now. He's got to learn how to make big plays. He's a good possession guy. We don't have very many playmakers. We don't. I look at them, and we're not putting them in positions with creativity. I go back to it again. To me, when you lack a lot of playmakers, then you have to be more creative, not less creative.
If you'd have told me that we'd be 5 games into the season, almost halfway through the season, kind of to our point earlier, with everything we had heard, because one of the safest things to do, and granted, is probably largely because of the protection, but one of the safest things to do is a play action shot to the outside on a takeoff route to a Josiah Hatfield. It just blows my mind. I guess just the protection, perhaps let Mason air it out about 50 yards down the field to Josiah.
Roll him out. Let him throw it deep.
Yeah, half roll.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have a legend on the line right now from East Carolina, a guy that Matt Semenza knows extremely well, played in the linebacker position. He was definitely in the room. I'm talking about Mark Libbiano, all the way from the great state of California. What's up, Libbiano?
Hey guys, how you doing?
What's up, Libs?
What's up, Matt? How you? It sounds like we're on a continuous this year, huh?
We are on a continuous loop, brother.
We're just going to do this one show.
Glad you called in, man. I know
with that hamster on a wheel, Mark.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
No, Mark, I'm glad you called in because listen, I people appreciate your perspective on this, and I was really happy you called in because I just want to hear your thoughts on yesterday and where you think things are going right now.
So you can definitely see those kids getting better at the system. The problem is this is a continuous loop from the beginning, and we saw it last year. This is too much conservative for a place at East Carolina. You need to kind of get a quick pitch in there, throw a quick screen, do a few things that are, quote, crazy. I have not seen the ball go on the field, just stretching the field. I mean, the Raiders used to do that. What was it? The stretch play. They didn't even care if they actually completed the pass. But you're not seeing these tweaks, which very much concerns me. Last year, you didn't need those tweaks because you had a lot of talent. This year, you kids that need to step up, you're starting to see a little flash here, a little flash there, but by the time the flashes come to fire, the season's over. There's things that you can do when you're down. You guys talked about it earlier, down the 5-yard line, like play action or a quick pitch, or roll the quarterback out and give him an option or two. If he can't take it, he just tries to get in. You're not seeing any of this stuff. You're seeing first down, ball up the middle to the left, second down, ball up the middle to the right. It's just crazy. Mason Garcia should be on the field with other quarterback. I mean, he's like 6'4", 280. I mean, he can fall forward for 4 yards. I mean, it's you laugh, but it's like, well, why isn't he in there
Right.
one or two just to have the defense think of it, right? And I mean, the kid's quick, and they need to tweak it.
Are you saying line him up at running back?
Yeah, right out to the left.
The refrigerator.
Put the one little. Yeah, like he's not going to go up the middle, but
Right.
you can kind of quick him. You can have him do it's another tactic for the defenses to kind of think about it. And
boy, and then with him, being he is a quarterback, then you got that thought of, is he going to throw the ball?
Right. That's a good
Well,
point.
that's the thing, like a pop pass, like a
pass.
red zone pop pass, right?
Yeah, easy. I mean, but you can't do it. You got to do it in the middle of whatever. And I don't know who came up with the talking about onside kick. You got to do it on the second quarter. You got to do it when they're not expecting. You got to do a few things, and none of this stuff is being done. So
it was me. I said after we tied it up 17-17, I would have onside kicked it right there.
Why not? Why not? But I said to Matt earlier in a tweet too, is are we getting so conservative that it's grinding us down to nothing? Where, last year, if you watched the defense, they blitzed a lot. Now you're not seeing any blitzes. I know, everyone's like, oh, you don't want to expose your defense. Well, sometimes we needed to, right? Like we needed to get to the quarterback, and you're seeing it now where we're just getting picked apart at third quarter. I don't know what the answer is, but I know there's a lot of adjustments that could be made. And if you keep doing the same game plan, you're not going to have anything but the same game plan for the last 10 games. So,
Mark, what do you think last night when and we asked Matt about it, and I asked you, when we tied it up 17-17, we didn't kick it onside, obviously. We kicked it off. The defense had played pretty well. That was their worst drive of the game. After we tied it up, our defense, they played horrible on that possession. Why in that situation? That shows me a lack of confidence.
Yeah, tired, wrong scheme, kids breaking down. You have this in college, right? You just got to go out and figure it out and get tighter, man.
And something else, kind of a comment I made to my dad earlier today, just any little mistake the defense makes like that, it's magnified because
the offense sucks.
Because
Right.
we're not going to score but so many points. I mean, so when they do give up a play, then it really is under a microscope.
Yeah, you get mad at the defense because they gave up that play, but the bottom line is they held them to 24 points.
We 270 total yards, and you think about it, in the first half, they had 89 total yards and 58 were on 2 plays.
We should have been up 21-10 at halftime.
Amen.
Absolutely. And let me just go back a second, because Mark makes a really good point about, Mark knows about this as a guy who was a great linebacker. But, you talk about when Mark mentioned offenses that stretch the field vertically. And even if those are incomplete passes, they're still effective, because what they do is they give the free safety something to think about. Instead of just, if you're free safety and there's no threat of the deep ball.
I used to always heard the term checking their oil.
Yeah. Well, you just want to come downhill and make plays, right? But it's no different than in boxing. A boxer goes to the body occasionally with a body shot just to keep the guy honest, just to mix things up and give a different look. We don't take deep shots. And so really what you're doing is you're giving the defense less to think about, and you're allowing those free safeties to be more aggressive and come downhill. So, I think that's a very good point.
Has any of the quarterbacks thrown a ball down? I mean, I haven't. I've watched every game. I don't think I've missed much.
Yeah, well, we hit one
Have they
last night
thrown
to put us
balls?
first and goal at the 3, and then we didn't get it in. But yeah, that was off a long pass play. That was about a 40-yard pass.
We need more of that.
Okay.
So maybe 2 of those all year. Maybe.
That was the first one I remember all year, actually.
Yeah, Mason completed a deep ball. I want to say it was perhaps that final possession where we avoided the shutout at Michigan. But
okay,
yes,
you're right.
It's blown my mind.
We have guys that can throw the ball deep, and we're not throwing the ball deep. I mean,
but in terms of a deep ball that puts us in a first and goal situation, that was the first one all year, and then we didn't capitalize.
Yeah,
maybe because we hadn't been in the
We're also
situation.
talking about tweaks. We're talking about tweaks too to this offense and this defense, and the concern that we have is we're not seeing the tweaks. And that's going to get you in a lot of trouble deep into the season. So, I mean, I went through that 2-9 season with Logan. That was my sophomore year,
93.
Yeah, when Marcus went
down.
Marcus. Yeah. So we started off with Mike. Was it Anderson?
Yeah,
Michael Anderson
was. Michael Anderson.
Marcus Crandall in '93, and then it became Hester, and then Perez Madison.
Yeah, Anderson was 92. So he got kicked 92. Off the team.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Anderson got kicked off the team. Then it was Marcus and Hester battling it out. And everyone really didn't know it until maybe a week before. And everyone on the team was like, whoever it is whoever it is. Became Marcus. And then Marcus went down, and then Hester came in, right? And then Hester goes down, like 2 games in, and you're just like, it's daunting. But, then Perez came in, and he just ran around the ball, and, it was what it was. But you can tweak it, and, you listen to a lot of these guys. This is not the NFL where you got perfect receivers grabbing the balls and doing the thing. You got to get the guys in some open space, and you got to tweak it and learn who's going to make some plays. I mean, if they can't catch the ball, you got to go to the next guy. I mean, that's how it was, man. If Matt missed the tackle, he was out. So was I. Like, it's just crazy to see this going on and not being adjusted.
The craziest part to me about the offense, and I brought him up before, our most consistent receiver. Think about this, guys. If anybody who wonders if it has anything to do with personnel or not, it does. Our most consistent receiver is a guy who started 3 games on a 1-11 Colorado team that Deion Sanders kicked off the team. That's our most consistent receiver.
Yeah, well, throw him the ball more than.
And please don't misunderstand that because that's not a shot at Chase.
No, it's not a shot at him at all. I like the kid a lot.
He's a redshirt freshman, and he's got 15 catches for.
God knows, he's the one bright spot I see most weeks.
Yeah.
Well, we have so we're heading into the bye week. I think we're going to get is it Savage, Bubba? Savage, right?
Yeah,
Tyler Savage.
Tyler Savage.
Savage. I couldn't think of the name. He's a big target.
First year he was a receiver, and then last year is more of a hybrid role, kind of used like Ryan Jones.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that can help us a little bit coming out of the break. And then how about the receiver? Again, I mentioned this last week. The receiver we brought in from Kansas, we got him.
He's Keelan Robinson.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big target. The coaching staff raved about him.
He got mono, and I don't think he's gotten right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, you got to think, because I want to say that was like in fall camp or summer camp.
Yeah.
Hopefully, at this point,
mono can linger, man. It can linger on some people for months. I don't know if it is on him or not. Yeah. Mono can linger. It just depends on the person.
It fits. It affects people just like anything else differently.
Well, it attacks your immune system, and whenever you got anything that attacks your immune system, some people come back from that faster than others.
So Mark, while we have you here, offensively, not to kind of put you on the spot here, but the system we have in place. I mean, if you were a new coach here, what type of system would you want to see run it? We've seen the Lincoln Riley system. We've seen, the Skip Holtz system. We've seen the Steve Logan system. Is there what kind of preference would you have? What would you like to see moving forward from the offense?
You gotta do a little bit more creativity, like you guys were talking about earlier. I don't mind what they're trying to do. I just think you got to put a trick play in or two. You got to put a double quarterback in. You got to kind of tweak the vanilla shake that you got right now. And I understand the reason why he's doing a lot of this stuff is they're trying to do their system. The problem is the grinded out football team is not going to really work at East Carolina. You got to find a few of the gems and you got to feed them. And it's just, grab a horse and you run. I mean, do you remember when Zay Jones was there? I mean, all of a sudden they just threw the ball to him 19 times a game, and it kind of worked.
No, if Houston, in my opinion, Matt and Mark and everybody, if Houston wants to be a run-first offense, and I'll go back to Rich Rod again. I've been on a Rich Rod kick all week. That would be a good system. Again, maybe go get the OC from Jacksonville State, where Rich Rod is now. That's a run-based offense, but it spreads you out and uses a lot of creativity and misdirection.
But Matt already said this earlier. We don't have the offensive line to do exactly what they're trying to do now. You're talking about a different run scheme, which you're getting spread out. I mean, some of those guys take 2-3 yards in a split versus what we're doing.
Yep, exactly.
Just trying to run the ball.
Exactly. It's not about running it; it's the way we're trying to run it.
Correct. So, I mean, you spread the defense out, it's even harder. Even if you have 8 guys in the box, you're still a couple of yards away from it, and you get whacked on the cutback and things like that. But I think what they're doing, if Houston goes forward, he just needs to tweak it a little bit and let some of the balls air out and do a quick pitch to the running back. I mean, some of these running back, I mean, you don't even need the blocker. Just pitch it to him. Let him run.
Exactly.
It's just they just need to kind of cut a few things in there and just do some ends. I haven't seen too many ends. We got that first down. There was a penalty, and then they went right back to the same play. And it's like, well, how is this? Like, why aren't you running this normally?
The first possession of the second half, we attacked the middle of the field. To your point, Mark, we had the big completion to Shane Calhoun, and then I'm trying to remember if it was Sowell, but we had another big completion on a in route.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are, they'll get there. I just think a lot of this stuff just needs to be tweaked. And we're not saying abandon the whole offense. We're just saying tweak it, man. Like,
Matt wants to abandon the whole offense.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But you're not going to abandon that offense with that coach. So, I mean, you're talking about a whole different level of a conversation. But I'm just saying, at this point, to win some games this year, you need to put a few buzz plays in. You need to, do a few things that, that breaks your rhythm. I mean, I think Donnie's probably got so much football on him that he's forgotten more than any of us. But in that sense too, is he forgets that it's okay to actually throw the ball on first down, right? Like, it's okay to run the ball on third down. I just think we're just behind the chains. I mean, you guys all know this, but a lot of the announcers talk about getting ahead of the chain. I mean, there's too many times where we're 3rd and 7, right?
Exactly.
Like, you need second and 2, so you can throw that bomb, and you can, you gotta just switch it up, man. There's just a lot of tweaks. I don't think they're going to get rid of anyone at this point, but they need
I wouldn't
to
be
tweak
sure
it.
about that.
Well, you
So
look at when
we'll see.
I thought when Donnie was at, and again, I really like Donnie a lot. I really do. But I think when he was at his best at ECU was when he was
Receivers
when
coach.
he was coaching the wide receivers. When we would have the wide receiver screen game, and we had a ton of we had different looks. We would have tunnel
Yep.
screens, smoke screens, traditional wide receiver screens. His receivers, we executed those plays so well, and they blocked
Amen.
their ass off.
Yes, they did.
They were so good. We had Jimmy Williams, we had Hardy, Dwayne Harris. I just haven't been able to figure out why we haven't implemented more of that. So, we have in the recent weeks. You could tell we've started to run more wide receiver screens, which I really like. But we need to build off of those because now, you have it on film. People are going to see it. So what are you going to do to counter that?
I'm ready for a screen and go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, but you mentioned that a few weeks ago. Like South Florida used to, be very effective at that. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but it's just been it's been frustrating to watch.
Yeah,
you got SMU coming in here. Go ahead, Matt or Mark.
No, it's just the loop. It's the same thing. It's the same thing over and over again. Is it the talent? Is it the coaching? Is it it's? And I think we all kind of came to the same conclusion. It's probably a little bit of both, and they need to figure it out. That's what they get the big bucks for.
You got to
get it right.
I do have a comment from Elliot Jameson trying and kind of deviating from the present and taking a trip back into Mark's playing days. Mark, talk about your memories of Willie Brookins. Elliot said he had some classes with Willie, and obviously he was a key cog. I want to say Willie went down, was injured in that 1994 win when we beat South Carolina 56-42.
He was a big kid. I just remember big, like athletic, just a big kid. Could really dominate when he needed to. So it's
Yeah, that's what Elliot said. He was a big football player.
Strong,
big guy,
very
big
strong,
huge, strong. You remember him, Matt, right? Or were you a little too young?
He was definitely a lot older than me, but I just remember him. He was a strong dude, like he had grown man strength. You call it, you know what I mean? for lack of a better term.
Yeah, no, I mean, he would just stand up and stand those O-line dudes up, and that was it. So,
or as Ruffy McNeil would say, "Gam."
So
yeah.
So Mark, going
grown ass man.
Oh yeah, we're obviously 1-4 now. We have 7 games left. Do you see wins on the schedule left, or I mean, how many do you think we're gonna? I know you don't have a crystal ball.
I'm gonna say this, and you guys are all gonna jump up and down. I think they're getting better, little by little, tweaks and stuff. So I don't see. I told Matt I thought there was a lot of winnable games in the beginning of the year. I mean, I don't think we're going to get through to the lane, but you know what, man? Like if they just keep dialing in the defense and clean up that offense a little bit, and I just think there's winnable games. But I think you're going to go through games like this, like the Marshall game, and like this, where it's kind of like, we're
going to steal some games. Is what you're saying?
There's nothing on that. I mean, unless I'm missing something, I thought we were going to get picked apart by this quarterback, and I thought we did well on defense. You just got to get the ball in the end zone and get that breakaway. I think there's still some games. I wouldn't give up on them, but runway's running out, bud.
You can win or lose about any game on the schedule.
You got extra days to prepare for SMU. So if you're going to put in some stuff,
now's the time
that you can execute that nobody's seen yet. Now would be the time to do it. Maybe you put in some stuff SMU hadn't seen, and you can jump on them early, and who knows, get momentum on a Thursday night in Greenville, and who knows what can happen. But we are going to be heavy underdogs. I would expect probably 14-point underdogs when SMU comes to town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a lot. I mean, I just think this team, he can hang in there on defense. There's a few breakdowns on defense, but you just got to get the offense kind of sputtering there and get it going, man. Put both of those quarterbacks in. I don't think either one of these quarterbacks separated themselves. So
nope.
I could say that all day long. I've put Mason in a little bit to see if he can do a few different things and have some packages for him and kind of see what happens the rest of the year. But you need to figure out, you need to develop some of these receivers and figure out your running game as well. So we'll see. It'll come out.
No doubt. We'll see how it's not quite the second half of the season, but after the SMU game, we'll be halfway through. So we'll see how just over the first half, if you will. But Mark, thank you so much for coming on, man. We appreciate you so much. And how are things in California, by the way, before we let you go?
Oh, everything's fine. We're good out here, and the sun is still shining, and lots of football and water polo with the kids, and schedule's all jammed up. So we're having fun.
Well,
thanks for asking, and I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you calling in. Always a great treat when we have you on. Appreciate you, bro.
No problem. Keep doing what you do.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate you here on the Pirate Football Playback here on the Sports Objective. Again, brought to you by L&K Custom Homes. Kevin Walker, licensed general contractor, 336. And that would be 336-688-8461 is the number. Again, 336-688-8461. That's the number for Kevin Walker at L&K Custom Homes. We appreciate him so much for sponsoring the show for a few years now. And Kevin, KK Walker, is one of the best, as we've said many times, to ever put on a purple and gold uniform. And so glad to have him part of our Sports Objective, the TSO family. Guys, we're kind of running out of time here. What do you, long show, but I think it's been great. A lot of people watching and listening tonight. Do you have any final thoughts before we go?
I've got a lot to clean up before SMU comes in here. We need to see some creativity on offense. This team has got, and this coaching staff has got to have a sense of urgency. SMU is going to be a handful. We do get them in here on a Thursday night. It's a long way from Dallas to Greenville.
Right.
Anything can happen. But boy, you're going to have to improve dramatically on offense to be able to win that football game. So hopefully what you do, you see enough that makes you feel good about your chances the following week against Charlotte.
Matt, do you have anything before we get out of here?
Honestly, I think I said everything I wanted to say. And
Okay.
thanks to Libiano for calling in.
That was awesome.
Always good to catch up with him. My phone, I got cut out there for a few seconds, so I missed the tail end of that conversation. But always good to hear from Libs. He's a fellow Northeast guy, originally from Pennsylvania. And now he's out in Cali. I don't know what he's doing out there, but it sounds like life is good. So good to have him call in. But that's all I got, fellas.
All right, Bubba, do you have anything before we wrap this up?
I'd just say, kind of like you guys have already mentioned, that coming off an open date and the opportunity to really dive into SMU and some potential ways that we can not only be creative in how we get the ball in J.V. Bond's hands and Josiah Hatfield's hands, etc. But if we don't run, at least one or two kind of wrinkles or trick plays or whatever you want to call them against SMU, that will be disappointing. I'd love to. So let's say in that game, we get some decent field position early. Let's say we kick off and force SMU to a 3-and-out, and we get the ball around midfield in positive field position and force a turnover. Now I'd love to see us come out and with a double pass or or end around and a pass off of that or something like that.
No doubt. We remember the trick play we did against South Carolina. That first, I think that wasn't that the first play?
Yeah, jet sweep pass, and Tyler Snead put it on the money to Josiah Hatfield for an 80-yard touchdown.
Boom, just like that. So anything will be great. Yeah, let's see what happens. Of course, a bye week, so we'll
beat off.
Yeah, well, I knew you were going to say that. I was waiting for somebody to say that.
We got to get that clip. We got to steal that clip. Somebody has that. I know Pirate Radio still plays it. We need to steal that clip of Ruffin saying that, and then it's classic.
No
hey
question
guys,
about it.
One more thought I had. Just to sorry, Kyle, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but
Sorry, I was just talking about beating off.
But no, I just want to say thanks to all the people who tuned in tonight and listened. Awesome conversation. You know, we appreciate you tuning in. We want to spread the word about this show. So, please check us out. Go to our YouTube page, The Sports Objective.
Facebook,
like
Twitter.
it, subscribe, Facebook.
We're everywhere. TikTok.
Tell your friends about the show. Tell your friends, hey, it's a great show. Lots of strong opinions. So we appreciate that support.
And if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook, we are also available anywhere you can find podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yep.
We are also there in audio only format.
Well, that's a traditional podcast we've had for over 5.5 years now, and appreciate the people that have been with us every step of the way. By the way, I got one final thing, guys, non-football related, but I want to give a shout out to the university. We give them a hard time sometimes, but Parker Easton and everybody with marketing and fan engagement, I want to give them a shout out. Here's what happened. Not to make it about me, but my beautiful daughter, they gave an opportunity for girls to come out. I think the ages were like 7 to 13, but they had a volleyball game yesterday, and you have a chance to shadow someone for if you wanted to be a part of the dance team, social media, etc. My daughter wants to be like her dad and have like her own show, like on YouTube. And she got a chance to do that yesterday. Parker Easton, all the great people, and obviously that student that helps with social media were great to her. So before we get out of here, I wanted to make sure I already thanked him via email, but publicly, I want to thank he and the staff. I thought that was a great idea. And definitely now my daughter is interested in going to volleyball games. So, hey, what you did worked. And now Santa Claus has to bring her.
Volleyball team's playing well.
Yes, they are. Really proud of them. And they lost yesterday, but they've been winning a lot as of recently.
I think that makes them like 12-4. They have a really good record.
No doubt. And so we're really proud of them. And I'm looking at the record.
Yeah,
right,
12-4.
Yeah, 12-4.
3-2.
I'm always behind volleyball.
There you go. But it was a lot of fun for her. And now, guys, for Christmas, she wants a camera. So I've got if anybody can help me out, get a camera for my daughter, a good one, a good starter camera.
Somebody buy Dave's daughter a camera.
There you go.
And then also a plug for women's soccer. They are 7-2-3.
They're awesome. Yeah.
And they are 2-0-1 in the American. So and they have a big match at Johnson Stadium on Thursday, 7:00. It is their annual pink game, and they are playing Temple. Obviously, breast cancer awareness there. So get out and support the women's soccer team as they look for their 8th win of the season to improve to 8-2-3 and 3-0-1 in the AAC.
And great breast cancer awareness, but I would advise just as we go for cancer charities, I would donate to somebody besides the Susan J. Coleman Foundation. But that's another conversation for a different time.
We have and speaking of the volleyball team, they have the game as well for breast cancer. They're calling it Dig Peak on Friday. They're taking on Tulane in Greenville, so at 6:00. So if you get a chance, check that out. All right, guys. Do you have anything on Bubba? We've got a lot of great programming coming up. Do you want to pitch that before we get out of here?
Yeah, tomorrow night, Holton Ahlers. Holton Ahlers recorded a conversation a few days ago with Jeff Connors for Absolute Empowerment, an excellent 75-minute conversation. We do have a snippet of that, 5 or 6 minutes short on our YouTube channel, so go check that out if you have not. But that entire 75-minute conversation will air tomorrow night at 7:00, again, Monday, October 2nd. Jeff Connors, Holton Ahlers, of course, Coach C worked with Holton in 2018. And before the coaching change, when Holton was a true freshman. And then also Coach C worked with Holton as he was preparing, for in pro day and working on doing everything he could to run the fastest 40. So excellent conversation. They dive into so many things. They really take a deep dive into to coverages and to looking at things from a quarterback perspective as far as so many aspects of the game and just things that I know folks will enjoy hearing from someone who played the position at such a high level. And then they dive into Holton's faith and how that got him through tough times, when things weren't going as well during his time as the Pirates starting quarterback, and how challenging that was, and overcoming that adversity, and then being able to lead the program to back-to-back bowl appearances.
Yeah, and so that'll be great. Jeff Connors and Holton Ahlers, every Monday night, absolute empowerment with Jeff Connors, and having Holton Ahlers on the big deal. And I just wanted to say one more thing here before we wrap it up. I said it last night on fifth quarter call, and I'll say it here. I'm always an open book. I go in Tuesday for CT scans and a bunch of blood work to check and make sure I'm still cancer free. It's a very stressful time. You guys have no idea if you haven't been through it, the anxiety I'm going through. So I ask everybody to keep me in their thoughts and prayers. I appreciate it if you will. And hopefully I get good news Tuesday and I can just concentrate on football.
Let's keep you. Yeah, no doubt. We'll keep you in your thoughts and our thoughts and prayers for you, Kyle. Always here for you, as you know. And
thank you, Elliot.
We'll stay positive and can't wait to hear the news. Definitely on Tuesday. I'm sure when we talk to you off air or maybe even on air as well. All right, guys, thanks so much for everybody being a part of the show tonight. A big crowd. We appreciate that very much. Pirates down to we're in 1-4, 5 games in, 7 games to go. Bye week. We'll see how that goes. And like we talked about, join us on every part of social media and our podcast player. We'll get out of here. By the way, one more time, our great show, the Pirate Football Playback, brought to you by L&K Custom Homes. And make sure you take care of Kevin Walker, as Kevin does a great job. In fact, on Facebook, you can see a lot of his great houses. His number is 336-688-8461. He's a licensed general contractor, a great Pirate. He's everywhere, man. He's going to all kinds of away games, home games. We think a lot of Kevin Walker. Thank you, Kevin, for being a part of the title sponsor for the Pirate Football Playback. And, of course, that's L&K Custom Homes. Had a great show tonight. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. You've been listening and watching the Pirate Football Playback, brought to you by L&K Custom Homes, right here on the Sports Objective. Good night, everybody. And as always, go Pirates.